Hi, Hunters. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joy.
And I'm Laura.
And this is The Witches of Letters, a supernatural rewatch podcast.
Buckle up as we dive into Season 4, Episode 11, Family Remains.
Okay, so I have a fun little, behind-the-scenes tidbit for our listeners, which is a public service announcement that I gave to Laura. And that led to us talking about vitamins for, a long time before we started recording. So
We are recording so late. We might have to do this in 2 sessions.
Yeah.
We were talking for an hour and a half before we even started
about
recording.
Vitamins. Okay. So, fun fact, I have some nutritional training because I used to work in a shop where it was my job to help people. It was like a health food store, and it was my job to help people with vitamins and medicines. So, something that I can tell you is that if you're taking multiple supplements, and especially if you have a prescription supplement like Laura for certain things,
and especially if you don't read the back of any of
if you
your
don't read any
pill
of
bowls.
the instructions of any of your medication, okay, what you always want to look out for is some things are water soluble, but most things are going to have something called an upper safe limit, which you can look up on Google. So if you're taking multiple vitamins and you have,
or if you have your own Joy, you can get her to look it up for you.
Yeah, if you have metals in them, so if you have the magnesium, zinc, anything that is a metal, selenium, chromium, those things, we don't want to be doubling up because it's difficult for our body to excrete extra of that. There's some things that it's easier. So like B vitamins gets excreted when you drink water, and then the water leaves your body. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to be gross, but the water leaves your body. And you have to really go some with a lot of those B vitamins for it to give you any problems. But things like the metals or vitamin D is absorbed through your liver. It's quite important that we don't go over. Okay. So what you need to do, if you're like Laura and you bought so many different supplements, is look up the upper safe limits and make sure that you're not accidentally exceeding it, because you don't want to make yourself feel unwell. You're taking vitamins to feel well, right? So we don't want to do the opposite effect. So check how much vitamin D is in each supplement, add it up, and make sure that you're still in your upper safe limit. So what we have is we called our recommended daily intake or allowance, and then we have our upper safe limit, which is the maximum amount that you could take in a day and not be sick, right? So look those things up. Make sure that you're not double or triple dosing yourself with vitamins like some people, okay? And take good care of yourselves. I am obviously not a doctor, and I am not giving you medical advice. I am just giving you information so that you can educate yourselves and not accidentally make yourselves feel unwell by taking too many vitamins at the same time. Okay, cool. But
read all of your bottles so you know what is actually in them. Because I had 3 different things that had vitamin D in them already.
Yeah. She had no idea how much vitamin D she was taking.
My magnesium also has vitamin D in it. I didn't realize. Yeah. I thought it was just magnesium.
So there's some things as well that a lot of things will have extra zinc in. So supplements, a lot of the time you'll find a combo of calcium, magnesium, and zinc. And it's because those 3 together when you have them in the right ratio, the correct ratios, up the absorption level a lot. So just like if you're taking something that's like, oh, this is magnesium, or oh, this is this, make sure you check for your vitamin D levels and your zinc levels. And it's also a good idea to just check out how much you're supposed to be taking in a day and make sure you're not exceeding it accidentally when you're combining a lot of health things. I think we're good these days about being more health conscious and more proactive, but sometimes it can backfire when people don't know that there's an upper safe limit for things, and that it's important to know that you're not taking too many vitamins. No, that was our PSA. Girl, also, she didn't know she was supposed to be taking 2 of one of them. She was taking 1 a day. It's probably a good thing considering. And she forgets to take her pills, which is also a really good thing because I think otherwise she would have been feeling really unwell.
Yeah, I need to sort that out.
She's wild. Supplementally wild.
The other thing I wanted to quickly just bring up before we start is countdown. So we are recording this episode, just as for context, we are recording this the day after the season finale for Countdown came out which I've already watched. Now, this won't come out until a few weeks after that. So, time, whatever. Time doesn't make
It's
sense.
not going to be spoilers for as many people, is it?
There's no spoilers, don't worry. There's no spoilers. You don't need to skip. I just wanted to talk generally about it's a really good show. So if you haven't watched it and you want to support Jensen, whatever, it's a good show. However, it did take me a while to get into it. Like I think the first 3 or 4 episodes, I almost was like, I don't know if I really want to keep watching this. Yeah. So, but after that, it got really good. Like when it got into the story. However, the thing that confuses me, which if people have watched it, let me know what you think, because I was looking on the reviews on IMDb because I was like, other people must have noticed this. The structure of it was really weird. Like the storyline was really good once it got going, but it's not a standalone story every episode. It's not that kind of procedural. It was setting it up to be like a big story arc for the whole season. But then it wasn't. It was like the last few episodes, it then turned into a different story. Like that one was wrapped up. And then there's a new story. And it was in the middle of an episode as well. Like it got to the middle of an episode. They wrapped up the first one story and then it went on to another one. I'm like, hang on, have I missed something? But I can't see anyone talking about it being weird.
Did you ever see 24?
Yeah.
Because that kind of sounds like 24.
It's kind of...
And I always
isn't completely. It's not like completely just the...
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Like it's happening in real time. But so it wrapped up a whole story arc and then it started a new one, which then ended on a cliffhanger for the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I was like, hang on, what? I don't understand this.
It was very 80s of them. And they did say that the 80s were their biggest inspiration.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was on purpose, but it just like these days you normally get either a new story every week kind of show, or you get one story over a whole season.
Yeah.
And it just threw me.
Especially
threw me. But both
like
stories are good.
Procedural. I can't say that. Police procedurals. It's been a long day for me. A long, long day.
But yeah, so anyway, it just confused me. It's good. Like I'm not saying anything bad about it. It's really good and I do recommend it. However, did anyone else think that was a little bit strange or is it just me? Because I feel like it's just me.
Yeah. Because it makes me... I have such mixed feelings because like Laura and I have said this before. We know that I'm not a cop drama person. Okay? I'm not. The only cop drama that I truly love is Sherlock. And
you've hated every single police episode of Supernatural so far.
Every single one. I hate them so much. And we know how much I love Supernatural. I do not like police procedurals at all. The exceptions to that would be Sherlock and Hannibal.
Yeah, but they're not really the same kind of...
They're quite different. To be fair, I don't even know if they're cop dramas, but are they procedurals?
Yeah, they're not procedurals in the sense of like CSI and NCIS kind of ones.
I just don't get on with any of those shows. So like I think this is the thing. And Countdown is definitely a police procedural show. And like the writing in the first few episodes just wasn't doing it for me. And I'm not going to say that it's bad because I don't think that it is bad. I just don't think it's my cup of tea. Like I think we all have types of shows that we really like. And I love Jensen and Jensen was flawless. And I was literally just watching it for Jensen and ignoring most of the rest of it because I was like, come on, really there's like one like Latina officer and she's on drugs. Shut up. It was annoying me.
Yeah.
But
I do like procedurals and it still took me a few episodes to get into it and then I was really into it.
Yeah. So like I want to give it another chance. I also am aware that he's in a tuxedo, which like hello. I'll always watch Jensen in a tuxedo in anything. So yeah, I wanna watch it a little bit more and just see if it can like win me over because it might be able to. I like spy things. Like I really enjoyed Alias when Alias was on it before it went absolutely wild on the storyline.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like there's a chance that I could enjoy this, but I don't know. Pray for me. Give me the strength to like Countdown. I really want to like it. I just cannot get into it.
But like I say, if you don't like procedurals, though, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not your kind of
Yeah, it's just not my
show.
cup of tea. I just want to like it so much because Jensen's in it, and I want to see Jensen doing things. And The Boys is another
Oh yeah,
avenue, but goddamn, that is emotionally hard going.
I love The Boys. It's so good. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's really good, but I just like I can't binge it. I want
No,
something
it's a difficult
bingeable
one to
with Jensen in
binge.
it. And I haven't even gotten to when he's in the season yet because I'm going so slowly.
It's a hard one to binge because of the gore, I think, for
Yeah,
me.
it's just like
It's
it's
quite
like
intense.
it's like Game of Thrones for the levels of intensity and gore and darkness, and I can't binge that show either. And if you can, you, my friend, are a psychopath. Like, how?
I think I've only ever been able to watch 2, maybe 3 in a row, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's fair. That seems like a safe level. But yeah, I can't imagine just sitting down and like binging The Boys. I don't think I would
Mm.
be okay mentally afterwards. Again, Eric Kripke should probably pay for our therapy.
Yeah, Eric.
Eric, why? This is a freaky episode.
Yeah, this one was pretty, scary in places as well.
It's also really gross.
Mm-hmm.
It's also based on a true crime case, which is extra gross.
Well, like with frogging,
I don't know what that is, but let's say yes.
like when people hide in the walls and stuff and live in your house.
Oh, it's okay. So when there's a part where Jensen casually makes a reference to it being like Austrian, and that
Oh,
is in
yeah.
reference to the Fritzl case. Um, and so I've included a link. I'm not going to go into that true crime because I just feel like it's too disturbing. Like I try to keep our true crime respectful, and I also try to not push the envelope out too far. And in my opinion, that case is so horrific that it's too much. But I do have a theory about this. And I think that they wrote this episode specifically alongside the licked hand myth that gets brought up. So you know how like
Oh,
the
yeah,
girl
I
licks her
noticed
hand?
that.
There's a
Mhm.
whole urban legend about the licked hand. That's a whole thing, right?
That's the one that I always remember from my childhood, like telling
Yeah,
each other. That's the one that one always sticks in my mind.
it's so scary, right? So I think they did it to explore the horrors women face at the hands of men, including family members, because it was the same story in the real case. And to highlight the failures in this case, so the case that they're referencing, on the part of the police and the government, as there were multiple points where they should have stopped this man and they didn't. And I also think that the Nazi background of that story compares really well with the white Christian nationalist treatment of women, which I feel is signified by the house being out in the boonies, kind of looking like an old farmhouse, and then we see a
Mhm.
giant cross at one point. So we know
Hmm.
this man who did all these terrible things to his daughter was a Christian man who felt like he was perfect and his daughter was a whore, even though he was the bad guy,
Yeah.
right? And I've definitely seen this in redneck white southern culture, like this kind of thought process. And it's horrible to say, but these cases, there are real cases. Do you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's
Yeah.
horrific. So I feel like we know the show can be political. I think it's pretty well disguised in horror. I think that
Yeah.
it's a lot less obvious when supernatural get political, but I do feel like this episode was political because they're referencing a real case and they're talking about how humans are terrible. Um
Mhm.
and so I really do feel like this was a calling out of violence against women at the hands of men and how
Yeah.
there are these structures in place that kind of allow it to continue. So it feels like a fuck the patriarchy episode, which obviously I can get behind.
Yeah, because Dean keeps mentioning like humans, doesn't he? As being
He
like
goes,
he did in the
"Oh,
Benders.
humans," saying that
Yeah.
yeah. So this case and the Bender's case, I think, are the only two times when the monster is a human being,
Yeah.
and it makes it so scary, but it really drives a point home because it really asks us to question the nature of monsters and also to do something about it, to like call things out like this. So you can read all about the Fritzl case in my notes, and there's a whole section on their Wikipedia page where they talk about how like there were multiple times where he was caught and arrested and then they didn't do anything. And then that government, the Austrian government, has a policy where after 15 years, your criminal record is expunged. So
What?
because they'd
That's not a very
expunged
long
his
time, is it?
record, no, it's not. So because they'd expunged his record, there was another time where they could have caught him out if that wasn't a policy, and they didn't catch him out. And there, all this stuff just went under the rug. And when you're also looking at the things that he's arrested for, and you know that he's married and he has women in his family, where's the welfare checks? Like, where are the people going to check on his daughters and his wife to see
Mm.
if they're okay? Because we know men who exhibit this kind of behavior, there's basically always domestic violence as well. So they should have known. Like, there's just so many times where they should have caught him. They should have done something. From looking at what I have read, right? That's my personal opinion. And I feel like that's the personal opinion of the people behind this episode bringing this up as a reference, because this case actually happened the same year. So this was really topical when this episode came out. It would have been fresh in people's minds.
That's interesting to know, like the timeline of it.
Yeah. So I strongly feel that this is a really brilliant, harsh criticism of toxic masculinity, of patriarchal institutions, white Christian nationalism and things like that, like the kinds of very masculine structures that allow so much harm to happen. And asks us, to think about how could we stop this? Like, what petitions could we sign? How can we petition our governments to change their policies to protect women and girls and vulnerable people of all kinds, to make sure that these kinds of crimes are, punished, and we're stopping people earlier? Because there are so many cases of violence where you'll look at the paper and they'll have been reported for stalking, or they'll have been reported for assaulting some other woman, but it's just like violence against women just doesn't seem to matter.
No, it just escalates. But or they'll say, "Oh, we can't do anything until they've actually done something." What when they're dead?
It's like when everybody's dead. Yeah, thank you. That's not helpful at all.
Yeah. How about do something before it gets to that point?
Exactly.
Like when
we'd like it
stalking
for the
cases.
girls to make it out alive.
Yeah, well, so many people report stalking and they don't do anything about it, saying they can't because they haven't done anything. It's like, but they are doing something. Stalking
they are
is
definitely
something.
doing things.
And it always escalates.
Yeah.
Well, not always, but like majority of the time it will escalate into murder.
A lot of the time. And so I have had people that I have known in my life. I'm going to keep this completely anonymous, obviously, but I've had people I've known in my life who have had to deal with stalking behavior. And they will go to the police with evidence of very concerning things, like potential hacking, video evidence of them being in places where they shouldn't be. And the police just don't do anything. Like, the follow through is so unbelievably lacking. It's just like they're just watching. They're just watching us being killed and not really apparently doing much. So, like, this is why I'm with Dean when we're watching the episodes and all of my anger at the cops comes out, and I'm like, fuck the police.
Is that often the only thing that someone can do is get a restraining order, and that often is then what triggers the escalation a lot of the time.
There's definitely times when things are lacking. Like, I feel like the fact that the most dangerous time for a woman leaving a relationship is like when she's leaving or right after she's left. That's the most volatile time. That's the riskiest time. And I feel like our laws and our government and our attitudes towards the protection of women are incredibly lax. And if we could find a way to actually write and enforce better laws and protect women better, then more people could leave. Not just women, anyone in that situation. Like, more people could leave. Do you know what I'm saying? Anybody of any gender identity. It applies across the board. It's just our statistics tend to say that it's harder on women, which is why I say women so much. But I don't want to exclude anybody, just to be clear. But like, yeah, guys, we've got to, I don't know, we're gonna have to find some petitions. We're gonna have to think smart, and where we see these things, talk about it. Like, just doing this now, I think, is a good thing to say. This case was so bad, why wasn't he caught sooner? Can help, because then we start examining things. People who are in a position to do something, or people who are super passionate and very intelligent with words can like start a petition and be like, we should change this. We should create action. I think sometimes we can forget that we, the people, are the ones who have the power. And like, if enough of us get upset about something and organize and do things together, then we really can make a change.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually found this episode quite predictable in the sense that, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing because I quite like it when I can work stuff out, but I'd already worked out that she wasn't really a ghost and was just hiding in the walls, like really early on. I also predicted that she was the daughter of the original daughter, like she was a child, like she'd been pregnant before they said it, and that it was the dad who must have been the dad. And
Double
the only
dad.
part I didn't predict, the bit that did get me, is that there was two of them, the siblings.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize there was a sibling.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, but I think the first time I was watching it, I was getting a bit like, oh, I already know what this is obvious what's going to happen. But then I was like, actually, I don't think that's a bad thing.
I think what it is like, this is, it might even be written by the same people, I haven't checked, but this is very reminiscent of that X-Files episode, like very reminiscent.
The one with the baby. They found
Yeah.
a baby in the field, and then they work out there's like a family living in the house, and the mum's always pregnant or something.
Yeah,
That one.
exactly.
I think we've
That one.
mentioned that one before.
We've
Another
definitely
episode.
mentioned it before because it came up before.
Maybe it was Bender's.
It was totally Bender's. I'm sure it was. So yeah, so I still found it, and I still now find it very chilling and gross and disturbing, and I feel like I found the horror to be like pretty heightened for me. I do find
Yeah,
this
the horror
episode
was
really
good.
scary. I give it a high scare rating personally. Um I think I'm trying to remember on the first watch through if I figured it out before the reveal, because I do remember thinking that it was a ghost for a long time, because like you're really set up to think that it's a ghost, and I remember being suspicious, but then also still feeling surprised when she goes through the ring of salt. So I think I'd kind of thought about it and like thought maybe it's a person and not a ghost, but I wasn't 100% sure. And then the reveal was still a reveal for me, and it was a good twist for me still. I had figured out the incest bit. Um and I'd already figured out why she'd killed herself.
I still liked the bit where she goes through the salt because it was still the reveal for the characters because they hadn't worked it out
Yeah.
yet. So that bit was still, I was like, oh, they're going to find out now.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though
yeah.
I'd already worked it out, but it was still fun seeing like Dean work it out.
Yeah. I feel like it's just such a gross, scary episode. It's not one that I choose to rewatch.
Yeah.
Even though this would potentially be a good Halloween episode, I don't know. It's just the content of it is so dark and horrible that I don't
It's not
really.
like fun scary. It's
It's
like
no. It's
horrible
like
scary.
horrible. It's like people are horrible, horrible monsters. Again, like the Benders. I don't watch that episode a lot.
No.
It's funny that in a show all about monsters, where you literally have the devil being like a character and demons being characters, that they've gone out of their way to showcase that human beings are just the worst monsters.
Yeah.
It's highly intelligent of them, you know?
Yeah.
And very effective, but also like just maybe a little bit too effective. Like another episode where they need to pay for my therapy. I mean, traumatize me more. They need to
That's just
pay
all
for
of
my
them.
therapy. It's
All the
all
episodes.
the episodes. This one even more so though. This is like, gross, horrible, disturbing.
I did have a fun fact for you about the mum. Did you recognize her?
I did, because I am obsessed with the movie that she was in. But where did you recognize her from? Because it might be from different things. Tell me all about it.
Smallville, which is what I thought you were
Yes.
going to say.
Okay, so it's two, because the reason why she plays who she plays in Smallville, I'm getting out my nerd like cape, is because she was the original Supergirl. So in the 80s movie of Supergirl, the first standalone Supergirl movie, She played Supergirl, and I was obsessed with that movie. That was my Frozen. I watched it all the time. So when I saw she was in this episode, I was like, oh my god. So I put pictures of it so that people can see it in my show notes. Like you can see the picture of her as Supergirl. She looks
Yeah.
incredible. She was an
Oh,
awesome
cool.
Supergirl. So then something that Smallville did that I thought was so cool was as Easter eggs. They had a lot of the original movie cast in as other characters in Smallville.
Ah. That's yeah, because she played Superman's mum in Smallville. This is Lara
Yes, she
L.
does. And I love her. She's very talented. I was delighted to see her in this episode.
Yeah. Oh, and also, because this isn't IMDb today. I
Oh,
branched out,
you went somewhere different.
and it was just from the Supernatural wiki bit on fandom.com, and in their trivia bit, and it says Helen Slater, who's the actress who portrays Sue, the mother, often gets confused with Samantha Smith, who plays Mary Winchester. So that was another, like they often get confused apparently.
Yeah.
Um, but then it goes on to say it might be because they both kind of play mums in CW WB shows.
Hmm. Yeah.
um, shall I do the synopsis?
Yes, please, Laura.
So this is season 4, episode 11, Family Remains. The original air date for this episode was January 15th, 2009. Oh yeah, because this episode there was a gap, wasn't there? So this was like the
Hmm.
first one after the kind of, is it
Yeah.
mid-season break? It was like Christmas break.
Yeah.
Sam and Dean investigate a supposedly haunted farmhouse after a man was brutally murdered inside. As Sam and Dean investigate, a new family moves in and start to have experiences too. And they have to keep them safe when increasingly disturbing events start to happen, including their son Danny going missing. At first, the brothers assume they're dealing with a ghost, but it turns out that feral children who were raised in secret and hidden within the house's walls are to blame. They rescue Danny and stop the threat, but not all of the family survives.
It's very upbeat for the murder part.
The poor dog. In my notes somewhere, I just have, does the dog die in this.com?
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, he does.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that.
No, and the uncle also dies, but I was more concerned about the dog.
Fuck the uncle. I care about the dog. Uh,
The uncle was mean to Dean.
he was.
So we open and we see a farmhouse, and then we see a man watching TV and the lights flicker and the electricity cuts out, which in Supernatural usually means there's a ghost.
Dun, dun, dun.
He gets up to go and sort it, but the door won't open. Then a closet door behind him opens on its own, and a girl steps out and he says, "You?" It's impossible. Then he tells her to stay away as he keeps trying to get out of the door. The girl smiles, like a really creepy smile, and she walks up to him. Then the camera pans to the wall and we see splatters of blood as she kills him. And this is where I wrote in my notes, why does a ghost have to hide in the closet? Unless it's not really a ghost. So I'd already started to think of it then, that she wasn't a
Yeah.
ghost.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so she killed him, which, you know, when we find out what happened, it's like,
You're like, yes, kill him harder. Woo, good job.
So then it's night now and we see the Impala on a track parked in front of a gate. Oh, and I noticed that there's a sign that says no hunting, which I thought was quite funny because they're
Yeah.
hunters. And we can see that Dean has his torch on, or flashlight, sorry, and is reading something. Sam's asleep on the back seat. He wakes and we find out that Dean is looking for a job, and sounds like we just finished a job 2 hours ago.
He is so unenthused.
So what are you doing with sleepy time? It's sleepy time now. And then Dean says the adrenaline is still pumping and offers Sam some options. And Sam is concerned because they're constantly working and Dean isn't resting. And he says Dean is running from what he did in hell. And Dean ignores him and describes the case that we just saw in the opening scene. And Sam says it sounds like a ghost. And Dean's like, yeah, me too.
So we realize that Dean is going to get his own way, okay? Because Dean is very stubborn, all right? And Sam is just like, oh, whatever. So he like sighs and then just
He'll
tries
have to
to go
sleep
back
later.
to sleep. He just surrenders. So then we see a country road. It's daytime. It's really clearly that we're going into the boonies. The Impala drives down and we see this sold sign kind of hidden in the grass. And then it's the inside of the farmhouse and it's daytime. And Dean's saying, boy, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and 1 homicide. This place is going to sell like hotcakes.
That bit was funny.
It was really funny. That was a great line.
Yeah, and they also, it seems like they're being watched from like inside a closet as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a fun fact about the house. So this house that they filmed, it says it's located, this is IMDb, it was located in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada, and it was also the set for the film Home, which also has like inbreeding and feral humans as major plot points in that. And also the actress who plays the cleaner in this episode was like the main matriarch in that film as well.
Ooh, that's spooky and kind
Yeah.
of cool. That's quite a cool Easter egg. So they enter the kitchen and they're opening cabinets, and Dean sees something on an empty piece of wall, where like that's a weird description. It's like an outline on the wall. It's kind of like a where you can see like if something's been painted over, but there's like a
Yeah.
shape. And he says, "Hey, check this out."
It's like
And
hollow.
he knocks on the wall and it's hollow. And he goes, "Huh." And Sam says, "It's probably a dumbwaiter. All these old houses had them." And Dean goes, "No at all." But he says it kind of under his breath. And Sam goes, "What?" And Dean goes, "What?" And Sam says, "You said?" And Dean goes, "What?" And Sam just gets kind of frustrated and goes, "Never mind." Because I think he realizes that he's having like a really like toddler like exchange, and he's just like, "I feel like we're grown. This is silly."
Yeah.
So he tries to just like leave it behind him. He's just like, "Oh." But you can see Sam being so long suffering, which is hilarious. So then they go into a bedroom, and Dean says that there's no blood stains. There's a fresh coat of paint on everything. He's like, "There's nothing here." And Sam says the needle's all over the place.
Oh, and his EMF detector he always
Yeah,
has.
the EMF detector. That changes how it works every episode. And Dean says, "Well, yeah, there's power lines." And Sam's like, "Oh, great." So they realize the EMF is useless, which is actually smart because that's how they're going to get us with like ghost, no ghost.
Yeah. So they can't work it out from that.
They open the closet and there's a beheaded doll on the floor.
Why is there a doll's head? And
With,
it's
like,
really
a
creepy as
really
well.
bad haircut.
It's had like its hair all cut off,
It
like you
looks
do with
like
Barbies.
the one in Toy Story that has the spider leg stuff added to it to make it super creepy.
Ew. Why? Why did they put that there?
The horrors. And Dean says, "Well, that's super disturbing."
It was.
And Sam's like, "Do you think it got left behind?" And Dean's like, "By who? Unless Bill Gibson liked to play with doll heads."
Ugh.
Yeah. So then outside, a car and a moving truck pull up, and Sam goes, "Uh-oh." And Dean says,
He literally did. Uh-oh.
"Uh-oh,
But he did-
it's Laura. Uh-oh." So Dean says, "I thought you said this place was still for sale." And Sam says, "Apparently it's not."
So, yeah, the family pull up and a boy, Danny. Did you recognise him as well?
I do recognize him, but what is it from? Because I forgot to Google.
13 Reasons Why.
Yeah, I've never
It's
seen
because he's
that.
older
It's
now,
something
so he
else.
doesn't. Oh, that's what I knew him from.
I know him from something. Like, I know him from that because obviously that show went huge. So I've definitely seen him in all the promos. And maybe that is what it is, but I feel like I've seen him in something else as well. I'm going to have to look it up later.
Yeah, I don't know what else he was in. I can't think. That's just what I knew him from.
Yeah.
So the boy, Danny, and the dog get out and start playing with the ball. And then the parents, who are called Brian and Susan, and a teenage girl called Kate get out. And Kate is annoyed that there's no phone signal. And this is funny because she's like, "Did anyone bother to check if we get a signal out here?" And she's like holding the phone up.
Yeah.
And then Brian's like, "Actually, I did, Kate, but we decided to move anyway, just to ruin your life." It's like a total like dad and teenage girl exchange.
Yeah.
And then her uncle Ted gets out of the truck and she's like, "Uncle Ted, please back me up." And Ted's like, "The kid's right, Bri, you're ruining her life."
Yeah.
Oh, and he's Susan's brother, I worked
He
out.
is, yeah.
He's rather than, because it seems like him and Brian have a bit of like beef.
Yeah.
So as they're getting stuff out of the car, Kate notices Sam and Dean coming out of the house, and Brian asks who they are. And Dean says they're with County Code Enforcement, and Brian says they had the house inspected and asks if there's a problem. And Sam says there's asbestos in the walls and a gas leak, so they can't stay there for a while. And Dean tells him there's a motel down the road and they should stay there until they've sorted the house. and basically tells them if they don't, because Brian's like, well, what if we don't? And Dean's like, well, you'll
Yeah.
get a fine or go to jail. And Brian agrees that they'll go there for one night and he'll take care of everything the next day, and they all leave.
And Kate says, another motel. Awesome. Dad, I hope this one has hooker sheets like the last one.
Well,
Dean, Dean makes the face where he's like, hard relate. Obviously some dated terminology, but we'll have to kind of allow it because that was the only terminology that was around in 2009 when this episode came out. Oh,
Yeah.
God, that was funny. So it's outside the Curry's home and it's daytime, and Sam's saying, what did the room look like when you found it, Mrs. Curry? And Mrs. Curry says, I already told the local boys there was blood everywhere. So this is at like a house up the road, the neighbor's house.
Yeah, and she was the cleaner.
She was the cleaner, yeah. And so Dean's saying, and Mr. Gibson, where was he? And she says, everywhere. And
oh yeah, that bit was like quite creepy.
Yeah. Sam says, how long have you been cleaning Mr. Gibson's house? And she says, about 5 years. And Dean says, so you knew him pretty well. And Mrs. Curry says, well, not really well. He was real private, not the easiest man, not that I blame him. And Sam says, what do you mean? And she reveals that his wife died in childbirth and then his daughter hung herself in the attic 20 years later. And it's just like a horrible backstory. And she thought she maybe had pictures of the daughter. So this is where they get the pictures from, because she gives them to them.
This is funny because she's speaking to them through the like screen door and she won't open it.
Yeah, she doesn't open it.
And then she goes, which is fair enough. And then she goes to get the photos. And then she opens it like a little bit and hands them out and closes it again.
Yeah. But also, like, how random to have photos of a girl in a house that you cleaned for. Like, that made no sense to me. I'm like, why would she have photos?
Yeah, because she wasn't even the cleaner at the time. If she was the cleaner and had seen them through all of this, like, family trauma, but yeah, she's only been cleaning there for 5 years.
Yeah, so it doesn't
like 20
make
years
any
ago.
sense. Flag, it's flag for me. Red flag.
I didn't even notice that one. Yeah. So Sam asks why the daughter killed herself, but she says it was before her time, so she doesn't know. And Dean then asks her some like standard ghost questions, like if she's ever noticed lights going on and off or things moving around, and she says no. But she then thinks about it and she's like, oh, I did hear rustling in the walls sometimes, you know.
Well, that
casual.
seems normal.
Sam asks if she knows where the wife and daughter were buried, and she says they were cremated. And also, I don't know how she'd know that, but then they leave. So basically, we've got important backstory from her.
Yeah.
And on the way back to the car, they're discussing what they think is happening. And basically, they think it can't be the wife or the daughter that's the ghost. And I'm just assuming that because they said about the cremation thing. So they can't, because usually they salt and burn remains, don't they, to make sure the ghost doesn't come back. So
yeah.
Oh, and this is apparently where in my initial notes I had my theory. And I've just put, the daughter isn't actually dead and she's just a frogger now. I hadn't worked out the age difference at this point, clearly.
Yeah. So, it's the exterior of the farm. It's daytime. Ted and Brian are standing outside, and Ted is saying, code enforcement, my ass, there's no asbestos. And Brian's like, you're sure? And Ted says, hell yes, I've built enough homes to know that. No gas leak either. So Brian's like, who were those guys? And Ted says, not from the county, I can tell you that, which is obviously spooky for them. So it's a little bit of drama. And the setting is interesting because like the way this is filmed is sort of like a mix between they're trying to have a happy family moment and it's a new start, but the color grade is still pretty spooky and desaturated. And there's like lots of country looking long grass in the distance. So they start to unpack the vehicles and Kate sees someone at a window and Susan says, hey, and Kate startles and the window's empty. So we kind of question like what we saw.
Yeah. And they're making it out to be like a classic ghost.
Oh, super classic ghost, which I love.
Classic ghost. Which
I would have enjoyed a haunted house. That would have been great for me. This
one I was even more suspicious. I'm like, you're making it really obvious that it's not going to be a ghost.
She's like Daphne and Scooby-Doo this whole episode. She's just like, no, it's not real. I'm gonna unmask you. Yeah. So Kate says that she's fine. She just thought that she saw something, and Susan says it's gonna be great here, Kate. It really is. But she's like slightly less than convincing. But she's doing the mom thing of trying to like smooth everything over.
And we also, it's kind of like the first seeds of there's something going on with this family,
Yeah,
that
there's something wrong with them.
they're like
Yeah.
running away from something.
Yeah. Agreed. Classic horror movie. So Kate says that she's sure and that everything's gonna change. And then we cut into Danny's room and it's nighttime.
Oh yeah, and he's playing on like a Game Boy or a Nintendo DS or something.
Mhm.
And the door in his room opens on its own. I think he's in the room where that man died, isn't he? He's in the murder room.
Yeah.
That's his room. That good room for a child.
Cheerful.
And
Wholesome.
yeah, so the closet door opens on its own and a ball rolls over to him. And I thought, oh no, what happened at the beginning, like when the man was killed, is going to happen to Danny. But it didn't, because the ghost likes him.
Yeah.
And also, why do ghosts, I feel like I've said this before, but why do ghosts who are trying to like get kids' attention always roll balls to them?
Because it's
even
creepy.
though she's not a ghost. Yeah. But anyways, he's confused at first, but then he ultimately loves his new ghost friend.
Mm-hmm.
And they like play. And then Brian and Susan are in the kitchen talking about growing vegetables. And they're clearly not farmers, but they've bought a farm. And Susan's like, what are we doing on a farm, basically?
Yeah.
And Brian tells Susan it's going to be different and they're going to be happy, which is basically what she was saying to Kate earlier. Susan tells Brian that she can't put the kids through another year like the last. And my initial notes, I wrote, I feel like they're taking too long to give us this family's backstory, and I don't think I really care.
I was unamused.
So that's the mood I was in when I was watching it the first
if this was
time.
Elizabethan court and she was Queen Elizabeth, she would have been off with her head.
Sometimes it's fun. This is why I leave in some of my initial notes things, because sometimes the first time I watched it, I'm like, why was I grumpy that day? Like,
you're like, why was I so angry?
Yeah. I leave them in because I think it's funny.
It is funny. Just rage watching Supernatural. Do you think this kid's name being Danny is a reference to The Shining?
I did say that later in my notes somewhere. But I think it's the bit where there's the writing on the wall, and I was like, this is like the red rum bit, and he's also called Danny.
Yeah.
That is coming up actually, isn't it? That's next.
It is. Yeah, that's what made me think of it. Come play with us, Danny.
So the Impala pulls up outside the house again, and they see the family have moved in anyway, even though they told them to go to a motel. And Sam and Dean discuss what they're going to do now. Sam says they could tell the family the truth, and Dean's like, really? And Sam says, no, not really.
Yeah, that was funny. That was good.
And then we cut back to inside the house, and Ted is unpacking. He sees something on the wall. Oh, this is the writing on the wall. And he calls Susan and Brian to come and look. And there's a big "go" written on the wall in red crayon, which was quite creepy. And then, I wrote, this is giving Shining vibes, and the boy is called Danny.
Yep. Agreed.
And I don't, this whole bit, because basically the kid they blame the kid comes down. He's like, it wasn't me, and they don't believe him. And I was like,
rude.
Poor kid. Why do kids never get believed in horror films? And also, Ted, there's definitely beef between these two, because he's like, oh, if he was my kid. And Susan's like, well, he's not, so shut up.
Yeah.
Danny then tells them about the girl in the walls and says that she wants them to go and him to stay, and she hates grown-ups, and if they don't leave, she's going to get really mad. And the dad just doesn't believe him and makes him go to his room. And I don't know why parents in horror films are like this.
Parents in real life are like it.
Well, don't believe the kids. But it's always the kids that notice things. They're more sensitive.
They are more sensitive. I definitely remember being around this age and not being believed for stuff, and I was totally telling the truth.
Yeah.
So I relate to it, and I think that's why it's such a good horror movie trope, why we see it so often, because it's pretty relatable.
Yeah.
And it makes it extra tricky because you're like, you need to believe them. And then they don't believe them, and you know they're going to be fucked for not believing it. So it adds more stress for the audience, which is a good way to build tension.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Using my film degree.
we also get a little bit more backstory because Danny shouts that if Andy were here, he'd believe him.
Yeah.
And so we're like, who's Andy? We don't find that out yet.
Yeah. True. But there's like implications. It's definitely laying the groundwork for that.
Yeah.
So Kate is lying in her room at night and it's dark. And she has one hand over the side of the bed out of sight. And Kate says, "It's okay, Buster. It's okay. I hate it here too." And you hear the sounds of licking. And Kate says, ugh, Buster, gross. What's the matter with you?"
Ew.
And then we see her bedroom door slowly open, and we're like, oh, something freaky is going to happen to her and the dog. But the dog then walks in the room. And Kate's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She turns to look, and the closet door slams as a figure is like running through it, and she
Oh, that's
screams, which
horrible.
is completely understandable. It was
Yeah,
really
definitely.
horrible. So this is actually an actual urban legend.
Yeah. As soon as her hand was getting licked, I was like, this is going to be that urban legend. I don't like it.
It's called the licked hand, funnily enough.
Ugh.
So basically, there's a serial killer that breaks into a woman's house and does a similar thing where she thinks it's a dog, but it's the serial killer. And then later on, she finds her dog is dead. And in the episode, this episode, unfortunately, the dog also does not make it. So
Yeah.
it
Poor
really
Buster.
does conform to that urban legend. So I did a little bit of research, and I'm going to read you guys what I found out. Links will be in my show notes if you want to look for yourself. So, it's a very popular urban legend, as it turns out. It's probably one of the most popular ones. And I didn't really remember it until Laura was telling me about her experiences with it before we were recording. And then I was like, oh, yeah, actually, I definitely have heard this one before. So
this is the main one I remember from like sleepovers and stuff.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And in most variations, after she finds the dog, the killer leaves a bloody message saying humans can lick too in blood. So the red crayon also, yeah, the red crayon also is kind of reminiscent of the message in blood. So the elements are really kind of like standard for urban legends. We have somebody who's home alone. There are strange noises in the night, so she hears like an ominous dripping sound, which she thinks is a leaky tap in the bathroom. Faucet for Americans. She tries to find reassurance, so she puts her hand over the side of the bed and allows her dog to lick her hand because she's like, well, at least the dog is here with me, right? And then when her parents come home in most versions, or when she checks the bathroom in the morning, she discovers the horrifying truth, which is that her dog is dead, often hanging in the bathroom, and the dripping was its blood.
Yeah.
That's quite terrible. We needed a didthedoglive.com for this urban legend. So the message of humans can lick too is written in blood on the wall in the urban legend, which is super fucking creepy. The hand lick is like this false reassurance, right? It's like it's making us think and her think that she's safe when she's not really safe. And the killer's message just kind of drives home this sense of like a warning to not assume that you're safe and to remember to check your surroundings.
Ugh.
Yeah. So in terms of origins and variations, the legend has been documented in print since at least 1982. There are loads of different variations with different characters, settings, and details, but the core elements remain pretty consistent. It's been featured in films and television shows, which we can attest to because here we are talking about it.
Many sleepovers from my childhood.
Yeah, I found another article that I've cited from the Encyclopedia of Urban Legends, and this is actually written by a legitimate folklorist. Now, she says that the legend of the licked hand is at least 146 years old.
That's specific.
Yep. And they know that because there was a printed version that was published in 1871. In 1919, another version emerged with a young professor and a dead student, which appeared in British author M.R. James's The Diary of Mr. Pointer. It has appeared in numerous collections since then, most notably in Jan Harold Brunvard's 2001 tome Encyclopedia of Urban Legends, and has been showing up on horror sites like Creepypasta for years. But it's just so spooky because it's like almost 200 years old.
Yeah.
Ugh. And she also says in her article, although I didn't see a citation for this, she didn't elaborate on it, that it was actually based on something that there was a kernel of truth in it. So it started out as an actual story, like an actual case, where something similar really happened and then spun out into an urban legend.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah.
And like, if it was in Victorian times, they liked spooky stuff as well. So
they very much loved spooky stuff. So yeah, it's super, super creepy. That's a breakdown of how that story goes. But I thought it was really well done because that's obviously the urban legend that this episode is based off of. And spooky. No, thank you. Do not like. No.
So yeah, so Kate screams when she sees this thing going into the closet, and then she goes downstairs explaining what's just happened to her family. And
Don't
she
miss
said,
out the part where she turns into you. She goes, ew, ew.
Where was that before that bit? Or...
That's literally when she walks into the dining room. She's like, ew.
And she says, I just got molested by Casper the pervy ghost.
Yeah.
And the dad tells her to calm down, obviously. And Danny's like, it's the girl in the
on the
walls. And then there's knocking on the front door, and it's Sam and Dean, your local friendly ghost hunters.
That's who you're going to call.
You heard her screaming, which is quite sweet because they heard screaming and ran to the house.
Yeah, Dean all heroic because we heard screams, what's going on? And I love him so much. And then Brian screams, oh, you two, did you touch my daughter? And Dean goes, what? No. And he's so fully disgusted. I'm like, thank you. That is a real Dean answer.
Yeah, and also it doesn't even make sense. They've just knocked on your door. They went in the house.
I don't know. He thinks they're creepy, weird guys who lied about who they were. So,
well, yeah, but
sketchy.
Yeah.
And Sam says, relax, please. You have a ghost. And he's like, a ghost? And Kate in the background screaming, I told you. And Danny's like, it's the girl. Brian's like, oh my God, can everyone shut up? He's like, what are you guys playing? Because he thinks it's a con. And Dean's saying, your family's in danger. You need to get out of the house now. And then all of the lights go out in the house.
Yeah, and then he shouts, nobody move. And that was hot.
Yeah, that was hot. Thirst trap.
Oh, and then I don't like this bit because we hear the dog whining. And I literally wrote in my, no, does the dog die in this.com? And it's sad face.
Yeah.
Because I always have to, I didn't actually look it up. I just wrote, does the dog die in this.com?
Yeah. It's not good news for Buster, unfortunately. R.I.P. Buster. All dogs go to heaven. So this is why, this is the reason why I'm all right that the kids get killed in the end. Because otherwise it would be pretty horrific because they're just victims. They're not villains. And the thing that makes them villains is that they killed the dog.
Yeah.
So,
but this is actually quite, bad. So if you don't want to listen to it, just skip the, 15-second thing a couple of times.
Yeah. So Danny screams Buster, and Buster's howling, and it's bad news. You can tell the dog is in pain.
Yeah.
Brian gets out of the house, followed by Ted, Sam, and Dean. Then it's the exterior of the farm, and Brian screaming Buster, Buster, Buster over. He's getting more and more frantic, and Ted says, "What the hell?" And the words "too late" are painted in red. The others come out onto the porch, and Danny's still calling for his dog. And Brian says, go back inside, go. Dean says, we are not the bad guys, but you're in danger. And Sam says, first things first, you got to get your family out of here. Dean says, head to the motel I was talking about. You'll be safe there. And Brian's like, what are you two going to do? And Dean says, oh no, oh, come on. Because all of the tires have been slashed, including babies.
Yeah, all of them.
All of them. And Sam says, dude, the guns are gone. So is that basically everything is gone. Ted says, truck's no good. So we realize that they can't leave. And Dean says, what kind of ghost messes with a man's wheels? I love that line.
He said that in a really angry, hot way as well.
Yeah. Kate says, "What's going on? What's going on?" And then she sees the girl and she screams and she's like, "She's there. She's there." And Susan's like, "Where?" And Kate says, "She was right there in the woods." And Dean's like, "What is a ghost doing outside?" And Sam says, "You want to stay and find out?"
It's not a
And
ghost, Dean.
Dean says, "Everybody inside." And Ted says, "Are you crazy? We need to get the hell out of here." And Dean's like, "In what? This ghost is hunting us. Everybody back inside now. Move."
This was funny because when they were all going back in the house, I literally said out loud, "Just put some salt around you, you'll be fine." And then that's exactly what they
Yeah.
did.
So Dane says, "Whatever's outside, it can't get in this circle. As long as the salt line is unbroken, this is the safest place to be." And we see them standing inside the circle of salt. And Brian's like, "Safe from ghosts." And Dean says, "Yes, as a matter of fact." And Brian's like, "Okay, I'm not listening to this anymore. Come on. I got to get my family out of here. Let's go." And Dean says, "Nobody's going anywhere until we kill this thing." Kill the ghost. Yeah, okay. Okay, Dean.
Try shooting it with your gun, Dean.
Yeah. Sam says, "Sir, please, this is what we do. Just trust us." And Danny's like, "You hunt ghosts?" And Dean says, "That's right." And Danny says, "Like Scooby-Doo?" And Dean says, "Better." And Sam says, "You saw her outside, right? Okay. Does she look like either one of the girls?" And Kate says, because he's showing the photo.
The photos, yeah.
Yeah. Kate says, "Her. She was paler and a lot dirtier, but that was her." And Danny says, "That's the girl in the walls." And Sam says, "So it's the daughter?" And Susan says, "That girl in the picture, she's dead." And Sam says she killed herself inside this house. And I was like, Jesus, Sam.
Yeah, just what you want to hear when you just bought the house.
Standing in a ring of salt in your house waiting to be murdered. Good times. So Dean says, "So what, the maid got her story wrong? Rebecca wasn't cremated?" And Sam's like, "Unless her spirit just attached to something inside the house." And Dean says she hung herself in the attic, right? And Sam says, "You want to babysit? I'll check it out." So Ted says, "Look, I don't care who hung themselves where. Maybe something is going on here, but..." And he's like, "It's a spirit, man." And honestly, at this point, I'm so fucking sick of Ted. I'm like, just shut up, Ted.
Yeah.
Ted rhymes with dead. Foreshadowing. So Ted says, "No, it's just some backwoods hillbilly bitch, and I'm not about to sit around here waiting for her to go all deliverance on my ass." Which, you know, I'm not a big fan of that line, and that does like sum up his character. I'm not sad that he's
Yeah.
dead, but it was a pretty good film reference at the same
Yeah.
time. So I've mixed emotions, you know. Dean says, "Well, nobody's leaving the house," and Ted says, "Stop me." I was like, "Oh, sir, you don't know who you're talking to." Dean says, "Listen, man, I've got a gun. You don't get your ass back in that circle, you're gonna have to see. You're gonna have yourself a third hole." I love him. I would marry him right now, honestly. Dean is the best. Sam says, "Dude, you don't have a gun." And Dean says, "And I'm not letting that bastard or anyone else die tonight." Because this is like an aside that they're having. And Sam says, "Are you cool?" And Dean says, "Go." So Sam leaves. And Ted says, "Hey, Fonzie, question for you. This indestructible force field made out of salt have to be kosher or what?" And Susan says, "Knock it off, Ted." And then we hear a sound, and she's like, "Shh." And Kate says, "What was that?" And they look around, and the girl opens a door and comes in. Hella creepy. And Kate's like,
Yeah.
"Mom," which is fair. And Dean says, "All right, everybody stay calm. She's a ghost. She can't come into the circle," which becomes immediately hilarious because she goes straight through it. And she's holding a knife. And Kate's like, "I thought you said ghosts couldn't cross the circle." And Dean's like, "They can't. She's not a ghost." And Ted goes, "Shoot her, shoot her." And Dean's like, "Yeah, about that." And then he screams at them for them to like get out because he does not, in fact, have a gun. But he fights her while she screams and the other runs. So he's like attacking, and she's like feral screaming.
Yeah. The screaming was, quite scary.
Yep, 100%.
And then Sam turns up and shouts, "Hey!" And that's the strap. And she's blinded by the light and runs back into the closet. Because, I mean, she's grown up in the dark, so,
I feel
light.
like, yeah, exactly. Also, she looks super pale, and her eyes look weirdly pale, like there's something really wrong.
Well, I mean, later we find out she apparently has night vision, which I'm going to come up and onto because that's a huge flag.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, I feel like we're missing a trick at conventions because everybody gets Jensen to say Sam and Sammy and son of
Yeah.
a bitch, which I love and I think is amazing. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody tell Jared to go hey, like in the
Or
Sam
like
hey.
flip an altar, carry a
Yeah,
shovel on stage.
yeah. We should provide props. Like we're missing as a fandom, we're missing out right now. We could be doing better, in my opinion.
What's the other thing I like it when he does? Oh, being like a human shield.
Yep, human shield. If you ever did a photo
That's
op
my
with Jared,
favourite.
you should have him being a human
Stand in
shield.
front of me.
Yeah, human shield.
So Sam and Dean go outside and tell Brian to get the rest of the family who've all like run away and they're all hiding.
Mm.
And they discuss what's just happened, that it's a girl, not a ghost. And Dean says it's not just a girl, it's Psycho Nell. I'm telling you, man, humans. I did look that Nell thing up, but it's not a specific reference. It's just a thing people say.
Mm. Like colloquial.
Dean suggests it might be the daughter. Maybe she didn't die, but Sam points out that she would be like 50 now. And this is where my brain instantly worked out what was going on. So
Yeah.
that the daughter must have been pregnant, and
Yeah,
that's then her
same.
daughter. So Dean says they just have to hold her off so the family can get away because he's been really protective of them.
Mm.
But then the family come out of hiding, but they realise Danny's missing. Da, da, da.
Dun, dun, dun.
And they all start freaking out. Brian tells Susan she needs to go with the daughter, with Kate, and he'll catch up, but she refuses to go without her son. Dean then suggests that they go and stay in the shed until they find him, as it's the safest place because all the windows are boarded up and it only has one entrance or exit. And I was like, has it? Because that ghost gets through, or not ghost, the person gets through the window later.
Yeah. I also feel like in a horror, whenever they're like, this is the safest place for you to go, you know they're going to get attacked. Like
Yeah.
every single time.
And also, I pointed out that the girls are being told, like, the girls can't possibly help, so they have to go and stay in the shed.
Eye roll.
Yeah, I literally have an eye roll emoji next to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Sam says that him and Brian will take outside and Dean and Ted can take inside. So then that's what they do.
So we cut back. It's inside the house and it's nighttime. Dean and Ted are poking around the different rooms looking for stuff. Ted finds a butcher knife and Dean investigates the walls. Ted asks what he's doing and Dean says that she's human and she had to come out from somewhere. So he then finds where she's coming through. There's a board that's kind of loose. They pull it out and Ted flinches and is like, "Oh, you smell that?" And
That
he
was
says,
also gross. Did you notice there was like blood where she's like been pulling it open and stuff?
"Oh,
It's horrible.
gnarly." Dean says every day because they're fighting monsters and encountering horrible death and stuff every day. But that also
Yeah.
could have been a joke about the smells that Jared makes. So I laughed extra hard because there's so many outtakes where he's like, "It smells like something died in here. I can't breathe. Let me out." And the director's like, "Please just keep going." And he's like, "It's in my mouth. I can't do it."
Ew. Ew.
So just
At this
lame.
part, I was like, we've already said it's like the Benders,
The Benders, yeah.
but it's also kind of a bit like No Exit because they're like in the walls.
Yeah.
So it's like a mixture.
It is a mixture. So Dean takes the knife and shines a flashlight around inside the walls and then goes in. And he's like, "Come on." So Dean takes the lead and Ted follows. They go further into the walls and the gross interior part of the house. Dean finds a hole in the floor and looks through. And it's like it must be the empty, I think it's the dumbwaiter shaft, basically, because it's like a proper shaft going down into the guts of the house and it's super freaking gross. Ted says, "You're not going down there." And Dean's like, "Well, do you want to?" And Ted doesn't say anything. He's like, "Yeah, shut your face,
Mm-mm.
Ted." So Dean starts going down and saying, "Please, nobody grab my leg. Please, nobody grab my leg." Way down. Which reminded me of Yellow Fever. I'm
Yeah.
like, he's so brave and too precious for this world. He's a brave little soldier. So, Dean shines the light around the room, and a rat corpse is inches from his face. He
This got
startles.
me. This was an actual jump scare for me.
Yep, same. And he sees Buster torn to shreds.
Oh.
And he says, "Dog, it's what's for dinner." And then he calls out for Danny. And okay, so that is a reference to an old steak commercial that came out. Um, it was one of the best commercials ever, and it always used to end with steak. It's what's for dinner. So that's what he's referencing.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. And then he calls out for Danny, and Ted says, "Did you find anything?" And Dean says, "Yeah, her kitchen." And Ted's like, "Her what?"
Ugh.
Dean keeps looking around and sees that there's artwork and 2 stick figures drawn in what looks like blood. As you do, just as you do. So Ted turns around and comes face to face with a girl, and she stabs him. Dean realizes that
Ugh.
something's going wrong and starts trying to get to him as fast as he can. Um, and then Ted's head comes through the hole.
This was like a proper slasher horror film. Like it could have been in Scream.
This is
'Cause
super dark, this episode.
you see the knife come out the back of his throat, like she stabbed him through the throat,
Yeah,
and then his head just drops through this hole where Dean is, and it's like, oh, that is really
yeah.
scary.
Honestly, like this episode scare rating has got to be like a 10. Like it's just so so we cut to the inside of the shed and it's nighttime. And Brian's saying, "Look, why are we just standing here? Let's go in, let's check the house." And Sam says, "We have to wait for those guys to get back, okay?" And then there's a knocking sound, and Dean says, "Sam, it's me. And help me out." And they move what's holding the door shut and open the shed door, and Dean comes in. And Susan says, "Did you get Danny?" And Dean says, "No." And Susan says, "No? Well, where's Ted?" And Dean says, "He's outside."
Mm-mm.
And Susan says, "Well, why doesn't he come inside?" And Dean says, "Because I had to carry him out. I'm sorry." And Susan says, "What does that mean? What does that mean? You're sorry?" And Brian's like, "Are you saying that he's dead?" And Susan says, "No, no, he's not saying that he's dead. You're not saying that, are you?" And Dean says, "We were in the walls and she attacked." And Susan's just like, "Oh my God." Dean says he couldn't get to him in time. And Kate is like, "Uncle Ted is dead?" And Dean says, "I shouldn't have left him alone. I'm very sorry." And like his voice is
Mm.
so full of emotion. Jensen's acting 10 out of 10. Chef's
It's
kiss.
really
Like
sad.
it guts you when you watch this. So he goes back outside and Sam is reading Rebecca's diary. And Brian says, "We'll find him, Suze. We will." And Susan says, "Where else is there to look? Danny's dead, isn't he?" And Brian says, "No, Suze." And Susan says, "He is. Why not? She killed my brother and now she killed my son." And Brian says, "No, Danny is alive." Susan says, "No, no, he isn't." And Brian says, "Yes, he is. Do you remember what he said about the girl who lived in the wall? She said he could stay." Susan keeps like absolutely flipping out, which who can blame her, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and she says, "I don't understand why this happens to us. I mean, we're good people. We're a good family." And Brian says, "What happened to Andy happened, okay? I cannot change that, but I will find Danny, I promise you. And when I do, we're going to be fine. You and me, the kids, we're going to be fine." And she's reassured and she says, "Okay." Like she's still heartbroken, obviously, but you can see
Mm.
that it's working and she's believing him. And it's kind of nice because it's nice to see these two are really in love with each other and it provides a nice backdrop for all this gore and horror that we're going through.
Yeah, and we finally like understand. So it's their
They've
other son
lost
has already
another
died.
son. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um, Joy, guess what I noticed in the next bit when Brian talks to Dean?
Oh, what did you notice?
That Brian has green eyes.
Say.
He looked like he did anyway.
Okay. Add another one to the conspiracy theory. So it's the exterior of the farm. It's nighttime. Brian stares up at the house. Dean says, "Andy, your son?" And Brian says, "Oldest. He got himself killed in a car accident last year." And Dean says, "I'm sorry." And Brian says, "It nearly tore Suze and I apart. Still could, I imagine. That's why we moved here. Fresh air, fresh start. Not even my line, marriage counselor. Of course, she might be right. After all, what could possibly go wrong in the country?" Dean says, "I'm getting your son back if it's the last godforsaken thing I do." Thirst trap.
Aw.
Brian says, "Why do you care so much?" But before he can answer, Sam interrupts and says, "Dean," because he's found something. I don't know why I said that so high pitched. That's not how Sam talks. Sam says, "Dean." And here he turns up and he's holding the diary and he says, "We got to talk." And then this cuts to the inside of the house. And this part really reminded me of that episode of The Witcher with the princess who's cursed. Laura doesn't know, but some of you might know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to think. I have watched The Witcher.
There's an episode where the plot is very, very similar to this. So anyway, Dean says, "What is that?" And Sam says, "Rebecca's diary. I just finished reading it." Dean says, And Sam says, "That girl back there, pretty sure she was Rebecca's daughter." And Dean says, "Rebecca had a kid?" Sam says it's all she talks about, being pregnant, being ashamed of being pregnant. Dean says, "Geez, rent Juno and get over it." Wait, why kill herself after the baby? And Sam says maybe because her dad called her a dirty little whore and said he was going to lock the baby up. Dean says, "Why would he say that?" Sam doesn't say anything and waits for the penny to drop. And Dean says, "Oh, gross." And Sam's like, "Yeah." And Dean says, "So the daddy was the baby daddy too." And Sam's like, "Dude was a monster, Dean." And Dean says, "Wow, a story ripped from an Austrian headline, humans, man." And that's what I was talking about, the Fritzl
Yeah.
case. So he says, "So she's been locked up her whole life?" Sam says, "You saw her eyes. Has she ever even seen light? She's barely human." Dean says, "Okay, so what? She's been caged up like an animal and she busts out and ganks dear old dad/granddad?" Sam says, "I guess." Dean says, "Well, I can't say I blame her." And Sam says, "I'm sure her life was hell, Dean. It doesn't mean she gets a free pass for murder." "Yes, it does, Sam, except not the dog. That's where we draw the line." So Dean says, "Like, you know what hell's like." And Sam goes, "Oh, shit." Like, you see it in his face. He says, "I didn't." And Dean says, "Forget it." So Sam changes the subject and says, "So where do we find her?" And Dean says, "Kids gotta eat, right?" And Sam goes, "What?" And Dean says, "He kept her hidden, locked up, but he had to feed her, didn't he?" And Sam says, "I guess." And Dean says, "I think I know where." And then we cut to the creepy ass basement.
Yeah, which is where I have a flag. So we get a shot of Danny tied up in the dark under like the floor or something. And we know it's dark because the shot is in night vision. I have a flag because it's the whole night vision thing. So it makes sense when it's used for us to see what's happening. Like it's just the camera shot
Yeah.
showing us him. That's fine. And even if they wanted to use it as like the girl's vision, I would I'd be like, okay, that still doesn't really make sense, but I'll give you it. But they use it for Danny's point of view. And that's where I'm
Yeah.
like, no, this kid doesn't have night vision. Like, I don't understand, because
No.
even if your eyes adjust to the dark, you don't have green glowing night vision.
No. I don't know if we're supposed to take it that literally, but I see what you're saying, and I do think that it is kind of a flag. I'll agree, because there's also no way that logically his ability to see in the dark will be anywhere near what hers is.
No,
So
no. And they
I
should have
agree.
just, like, the night vision is fine if they just filmed, like, us seeing him,
Like
seeing
the
her. But
omniscient point of view of the camera. Yeah, it would make
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, but not from his actual point of view, which I feel
No,
that's
I
how
hear you.
that's how I interpreted it anyway. That it was his actual point of view. But
No,
anyway,
you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, I think they wanted us to take it all and just be like, "Oh, I can see in the dark." And think that all of everything that we were seeing was us watching the scene unfold. But the point of
yeah.
view of the camera is exactly what you're describing. So I think you are right. And I agree with this rant. All I could think of was rats are the rats of the world.
Rats are dinner in this one.
Yeah. She smiles at him carrying this big rat and then
Oh, it's
bites
creepy.
into it while it's alive.
Ugh.
And he screams and it's pretty gruesome. Um
Yeah.
And then we cut to the inside of the dumbwaiter shaft, and Dean and Sam bust a hole into the kitchen wall, letting some light through. And Sam says, "Could have kept her hidden for years, kept her fed, nobody would ever know." And Brian kind of flinches away from the shaft. Phrasing. And he's screaming, "Danny, Danny." Dean shines a light down the shaft. I can't get over the shaft now. Dean says, "Watch out, I'm going down." Brian says, "No, that's my son." Meaning he wants to go down because he wants to save his kid. And Dean says, "I know it is, but I said that I would get him, and I will. Let me. So he takes the lead and looks down and up the shaft and scoots through the hole and then starts to climb down the side.
Did you notice there was like scratches where that was a nice touch? Like where
Yeah, there's
people were trying to
scratches
climb up
going
before.
down.
Mm,
Yeah, that was creepy as hell. I love that. I thought that was great.
yeah.
Sam asks if they have any curtains because they need a rope. So Brian starts to look while Sam holds the light for Dean. We cut to the inside of the basement. It's nighttime. Dean hits the bottom of the shaft and looks around. There's a rosary on the floor with a huge wooden cross. And that's what I was referring to.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the cross.
It's absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
Um, then we cut back to the shed, and Susan's trying to reassure Kate. But then the boarded up windows bust and they're screaming. And then we cut back to the basement. Dean finds one of his guns and picks it up and checks it and says, "Bitch is a klepto." And then he
This
finds
is like a
another gun.
Hansel and Gretel of
Yeah.
weapons, like a
Yeah, it
breadcrumb
is.
trail of
Yeah.
weapons.
And checks it too. And then he says, "Come on." And then he's like, "Danny, Danny." And then we hear Danny trying to scream. And Dean follows the sound, finds a hole in the brick wall, and shines a light through it and sees Danny still bound and gagged. He grabs a butcher knife from nearby and cuts Danny's bonds. Danny scrambles through the hole. Dean says, "Your dad's upstairs. Come on, watch your head, watch your head." And he's all protective, and it's really cute. And I love Dean.
Yeah.
So Danny says, "Hurry, he's coming back." And Dean goes, "He?" And Danny says, "Her brother," super ominously, right? And then there's this
Ugh.
feral yell, and this boy tackles Dean, and he drops the light. Dun dun
Yeah.
dun, drama.
I wrote in my initial notes. Okay, the brother was a surprise.
Yeah, he was a surprise. They must have been twins.
Yeah.
So then we cut to the inside of the shed at night, and this kind of reminded me a little bit of the Evil Dead. Um,
Yeah.
so Susan's holding a rake, and they watch the windows in like absolute abject terror. A knife comes through the wall right between them, and they scream. And then we
They do
cut
a lot
back.
of screaming in this episode.
There's a lot of good screaming.
In fairness, Kate does a good scream.
She does, yeah.
Yeah.
So we cut into the basement at night, and Dean and the boy are struggling while Danny watches. And then we cut into the kitchen, and Sam drops one end of a rope of knotted curtains down the shaft. Danny appears at the bottom, and Sam says, "Danny." And then we cut back into the basement at night, and Dean and the boy are fighting. Dean loses one of the guns. And then we cut back to the kitchen, and Danny ties himself to the rope and says, "Okay." And Sam and Brian pull him up. While Brian's saying like really encouraging things, and telling him to not look back and don't look down. And they manage to hoist him up and out. And then we cut back to the shed, and Susan and Kate are looking around, and a box against the wall starts moving, like she's trying to smash her way through the walls, which is really, really scary. And Kate's like, "Mom?" Susan shoves Kate behind her and tries to hold the wall with a rake under the bottom. And Kate screams, "Mom!" And then we cut back to the kitchen. Danny's out of the hole. And Brian's like, "Come on, you okay? It's okay." And Sam tells them to get out of there and just go. So they leave, and Sam's shining the flashlight down looking for Dean and calls his name. And we cut into the basement, and the boy is stabbing at Dean, who holds him off with the light and then grabs his gun and shoots. The boy falls, and Sam comes in through the hole. So basically, like this, they're all really light sensitive, and Dean's use of the flashlight was like super intelligent because he just blinds him and then gets the weapon back.
Did you think, because like Dean is killed, he's human,
Yeah.
and I feel like Dean had a look as if like, oh no, I've killed a human.
Yeah, you can kind of see in their faces that they feel mixed feelings about this one. And then it's
Yeah, I mean
just
they
really
had to.
fucked
They
up.
were like,
Yeah. It's
they
kill
would
or
have
be
killed
killed.
everyone, but yeah,
Yeah.
but they don't like, you know, especially Dean. He doesn't like. He has a very, it's very black and white, like monster
Yeah.
human.
Yeah, and he doesn't like killing kids either.
No.
So, yeah. It's a dark, dark, dark episode, and I don't think either of them enjoyed this one.
No.
Um, so back in the shed, the girl manages to break down the wall. Susan and the rake are caught underneath, and the girl has her knife ready to stab, but she then gets yanked out by the ankle, and we think it's Dean or Sam.
Mm.
And Kate's screaming for her mom. And then we hear the girls screaming outside, and there's sounds of people getting stabbed and pounding on the
Yeah, that was
door.
horrible.
Susan and Kate are screaming. And then we realize that it's Brian, and he goes, Suze. And then they rush to the door, open it, and Brian's outside holding a bloody knife. So we realize that he killed the girl in defense of his wife and daughter. And
yeah, he's covered in blood as well.
He is covered in blood. It's super gory, this episode. Honestly, how is this network TV? I swear. So it's outside the farm, and it's nighttime, and Kate's crying. Susan's holding Danny. Sam and Dean come out of the front door and see the girl's body.
So a little bit later, the family are all crying on the steps up to the porch, and Sam and Dean come out and see the dead girl. And then it's the morning, and Sam is putting all of the weapons back in the car. Brian and Susan thank them for their help. Then we skip to a little bit later again, and Sam and Dean are parked and they're having a conversation like on an underpass.
Yeah. So they get out of the car. Sam comes around to Dean's side with burgers. Dean unwraps his, looks at it, and wraps it back up. And Sam says, "Are you okay?" Because we all know Dean and food.
Yeah.
Dean says, I felt for those sons of bitches back there. Lifelong torture turns you into something like that. And Sam says, "You were in hell, Dean. Look, maybe you did what you did there, but you're not them. They were barely human." Dean says, "Yeah, you're right. I wasn't like them. I was worse. They were animals, Sam, defending territory. Me, I did it for the sheer pleasure." And Sam's like, "What?" And you can see the absolute shock on his face. And Dean says, "I enjoyed it, Sam. They took me off the rack, and I tortured souls, and I liked it. All those years, all that pain, finally getting to deal some out yourself. I didn't care who they put in front of me, because that pain I felt, it just slipped away. No matter how many people I save, I can't change that. I can't fill this hole. Not ever." And he's like on the verge of tears. The
Yeah,
guilt.
but did you... I thought this scene was weird. Like, it was such a contrast to the... Was it last episode or the episode before where he finally admits, like, what has happened?
Yeah.
And now he's saying, "Oh, yeah, I liked it." And I just thought it was random.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
The first
What
time
did you
that
think
I
about
saw it, I remember my first watch's reaction was that I didn't believe it. Like, I didn't think that was true to Dean's character. And I kind of still question it. I question it a bit less now that I'm older and way more jaded, but like it does feel like opposite land. Like it feels like those two speeches are kind of contradictory. Like I feel like the person who wrote this episode wanted to make it as horrible as physically possible and was like, how can we make this worse? Well, we have Dean saying that he actually enjoyed what was going on. That he like had fun with it. Because I feel like what they're trying to do is they're trying to slowly tease Demon Dean, like Dean turning into a demon, because we know that that's what happens to people who go to hell from Ruby's accounts, right? That's how she became a demon.
Yeah.
And then we have Alistair, and that's another teaser for us about this, right? That like Alistair was the one who like turned Dean. So I think what they're trying to do is make us question if Dean is kind of demonic now. Like, are Sam and Dean both going over to the dark side? And if so, who will possibly save us?
So we've had teasers for like both of them are going to be evil. It's like, what? Make mine up. I was about to ask you if you think it was the whole thing about that we mentioned a few episodes ago, whichever episode Alistair was in first, and we talked at the end about how if you're in hell, it eventually turns you into a demon. So I did wonder whether it was something to do with that, but I don't know. It kind of took me out of it. It was just seemed random at the end of this episode, but then they always have like the little heart to hearts at the end.
I know what you mean,
so
though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it feels jarring. Like after having seen all like 15 seasons, I'm so jaded at this point that I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Because like this is the point in the fandom where like people start saying, I missed season 1 and 2 where their biggest problem was finding their dad. Why does it get so dark? Why are they doing this to our feelings? Pay for our therapy. You know, it's that kind of a vibe where the storylines just get darker and darker and darker.
Mhm.
And Dean and Sam get more and more visibly traumatized.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me now, as jaded as I am, I just kind of accepted it. I was like, yeah, that tracks. Um, but first watch through Joy was like, he did not. That's such a lie. He would never
Yeah,
do
that's
that
what I
or say
felt.
that. And I was
Mhm.
like, no, rejected. Absolutely rejected. Shut up. Shut your mouth. Not true.
Yeah, that's my feeling on my first watch through.
Yeah.
Like, what? No. So, yeah, I'm very confused about. So that are they? They're both going to be evil then, but they keep saying like it seems like the storyline's been going to like Sam's going to turn bad, Dean's going to
Mm.
be good, and that there's going to be like this big evil versus good fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. That's what I've been thinking is going to happen so far. And now I'm like, well, so is Dean bad as well?
Yeah.
But I guess I'll find out.
All will be revealed in time.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts, or do you want to do games?
I feel like we should go to games.
Okay. Villain hot or not?
Inapplicable. The
Yeah.
whole thing
No.
inapplicable. This episode is so fucking horrific. We can't. No.
Episode scare rating. I have actually given it a 9. You
I'm
said
giving it a
you
10.
maybe a
I'm
10.
maxed out. It's
Yeah.
gross and dark and scary and I don't like it.
There were jump scares. There was a dog dying. There
Yeah,
was an uncle dying.
it's too much for me. There's incest. It's bleh.
Yeah.
Too
Yeah.
many things. No, no, no. No.
Mm-mm. What were your favourite quotes?
Teen saying, "Yeah, we'll sleep when we're dead." that was, that was funny. Um
I've only got 2 today. Are you proud of me?
oh my god. Oh, I'm so proud. And it's when it's this exchange where Sam says it's probably a dumb waiter. All these old houses had them, and Dean goes, "No, it all." And Sam goes,
Oh
"What?"
yeah.
And Dean goes, "What?" And Sam says, "You said." And Dean goes, "What?" And Sam says, "Never mind." That's my favorite one.
I had Kate saying, I just got molested by Casper the pervy ghost. And Dean saying, what kind of ghost messes with a man's wheels?
Those are great. Yeah. Those are really, really, really funny. I also like, does this salt need to be kosher?
What were your best thirst traps?
Um, it's Dean for me when he charges in to save the kid. When
Yeah.
he like goes down the shaft, he's like, "No, I'm gonna save him." I guess the ultimate one is like when he's saying there's the part where he's saying he's so sorry about the brother, and then immediately afterwards goes down to save Danny. Um, and
Mhm.
I just felt like it was such a good like rescuing moment. I thought that was really hot. What about you?
Well, I had a Sam one that's my best one, but I had a Dean one as well that was when all the lights go off and he shouts, no one move.
That was pretty hot.
And then, but my favourite one is Sam shouting, hey, and shining the
Hey,
light in the girl's face.
yeah, a Sam Hay is always a thirst trap. I'm telling you, I don't understand why more people at conventions don't be like, Jared, will you go, hey?
Yeah.
If you're listening and you go, you should start doing that. Give us credit too. Be like, listen to the Witches of Letters.
MVP. I was confused for this. I put Dean
Yeah.
question mark or maybe Sam and Dean together. Sam worked out who the girl was, but
Yeah.
Dean rescued Danny. Although Ted did
True.
die.
Also true. I think it's Sam for figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go with that.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a motel. There was just the house. The house was quite nice, apart from all the
Apart from the
ghosts and
murder
murders.
and the incest and like blood on the walls and the yeah.
How it looks from the outside
For
was
how
quite
it
cool.
looks in terms of the aesthetics of the actual house itself is pretty cool. Yeah. I'll give you that.
Yeah, like a cool farmhouse on a hill in the middle of nowhere has one of those
Yeah.
porches I like that you don't get here. I really want a
I
wraparound
really
porch.
miss porches. I resent the fact that porches are not a thing here. It makes me very, very upset. How am I
Yeah.
supposed to do fall without a porch?
I mean, you don't really want to sit outside here, though, do you?
Well, if there was like screens or it was like
There's
really
like a
well
few weeks a
enclosed,
year.
it would be
I think
fine.
we've talked about this before as well. We've said about
Yeah,
there's only like a few weeks out of the year you'd even want to sit outside.
it's very true. Do you have anything to say before we say goodbye? Like, do we have any announcements to tell the people of?
Just a reminder for people to send in their local lore to our email if you want to be in our Halloween episode.
Yes, you should totally do that. It'll be such a good time.
thewitchesandletters@gmail.com. Send us your local lore. It can just be, this is my local lore, and then we research it, or you can give us the whole story of it. Either way.
Up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome good time. I'm super psyched for this bonus episode. I think it will be amazing.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Shall we say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. We would be very grateful. And if you know someone who would enjoy it, please share.
You can find us on Instagram at the Witches of Letters podcast, or you can email us at thewitchesofletters@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay safe out there, have each other's backs, and always keep fighting.